The war will not end until Saigon is badly hurt. A Vietnamese told me this on my first day there. We were in a street called the Street of Flowers, where you buy your decorations for the new year. Saigon is fat, and the good luck signs in gold that you see on the streets give no hint of the death that is just outside the city. It's Tet, Vietnamese New Year, and the city is tense.
Long tall Texans out there had a cool fair day of 68.
Hey, you're a Saigon cowboy. You Saigon VC?
So you think I was the ugly American?
The American people, I can say, from having campaigned the country, are terribly frustrated about this war.
Saigon is fat on American money, but the war that brought that money here is not seen. You see the service industries of war, but the real war, the killing war, is just offstage. Fewer GIs on the streets these days. Their motto, "Don't be the last GI to die," in Vietnam.
The possibility of withdrawing troops is something that we have...
I gotta go to heaven because I've been to hell.
For some time.
Two types of people in the city, the Americans and the gooks, as they call them.
Believe it or not, the other day I saw a Honda with 7 people on it.
Theoretically, there are friendly gooks and unfriendly gooks, but in the end, they're just all gooks.
Listen, we'll be right back to sock those temps to you.
All you're doing is gathering up a crowd.
The guard tells us that the crowd is dangerous and we must disperse. We're endangering the enlisted men's quarters, which lie behind the white barrels.
Don't get near these liners.
So it's hard for a young American who is neither a soldier or an aid man, who wants to know the Vietnamese people. Some manage. There's a house on Pham Bu Lao Street, a seeming slum with refugees camped against its walls, poor lost people living on morphine and prostitution. And inside this house, the floor covered with shoeshine kids, kids of the street. 30 of them have drifted into this house over the last year. And the guy who encouraged them to come is a young actor from Boston called Dick Hughes. Nobody pays Dick to look after these kids. He says he just gives them a place to sleep. But in fact, he gets them out of jail. He treats their wounds. And each morning he shakes them out of the house and they go off to a day of shoeshining and probably pimping and stealing as well.
On the Jackie Gleason show at 20:05, Jackie greets Red Buttons, Jan Murray, Nipsey Russell, plus a visit from the Honeymooners.
I lived in this house for several weeks, and the very first morning I was there, two of these kids stole my still camera. Within 10 minutes they had sold it to a fence, and 10 minutes after that they were back singing songs. I'm 100% yours tonight, baby.
120 chiều nay 100%. Người em ơi 120 chiều nay 100%. Người em ơi chiều nay 100%. Người em ơi giờ đây đã cấm chạy rồi.
120 chiều nay 100%.
Later in the morning, work begins at a little news bureau called Dispatch.
Has Ron got the mail
You'll
yet?
find Dick there and some other young Americans.
Ron's in bed. Everybody's very tired. Yeah, well,
The bureau chief, Mike Morrow, 23, speaks Chinese.
What about your story? Is your story finished? Yeah, I don't think I'll rewrite that. I think that looks pretty good. I think I'll rewrite it because, it doesn't...
When I was in Saigon, Dispatch was unknown, but 6 months later they helped break the story on the My Lai massacre, and Dick's prediction seems prophetic now.
Dispatch is a news agency that's just about to make it. A lot of young people together in a sort of haphazard way that are trying to find out what is happening in Vietnam, in Saigon, and later in Southeast Asia. We have 4 outlets at the moment. We're writing for the Seattle Times, the San Francisco Chronicle, National Catholic Reporter, and the Los Angeles Free Press. The only way I try to answer that question for myself while I came over here, the only thing I really found is that it seemed like the most natural thing to do. If you're concerned about something, you do something about it. And the way I do things is to go right to the center of the problem where it's happening.
But the strange thing is that when I knew them, they were writing little about the war itself. John Steinbeck, for instance, was living and writing for Dispatch on a strange island of peace in the Mekong Delta. You get to John's Island by boat, a boat driven by boy monks, for the island is a religious sanctuary in the Mekong River. The leader of the island is a man who's a legend in the South. They call him the Coconut Monk because he once spent 7 years in a coconut tree, vowed to silence, praying for peace.
In the center of South Vietnam, where there's nothing but war and turmoil, this man, through very curious, if not, almost laughable measures, has an island where there is pure peace, simple peace.
John calls himself a friend, not a follower of the monk. He lives there because, as he says, it's the only place he can find truly happy Vietnamese, people without hate, building their peace pagodas and cutting the ends off expended shells to turn them into flower pots. You feel good on the island because you see children who are safe from the war and from the bullets and from the more subtly destructive things. About 9 o'clock each morning, you find Dick's kids against the white barrels which guard the enlisted men's quarters. Their true meeting point, the kids and the GIs, is that they're both bored, both terribly bored.
Servicemen in Vietnam should keep in mind that they're guests in the country.
Across the street in a bar, we, chief hustler of Dick's house. We pimps, steals, sells more refrigerators than anyone else. And in a game like this, you may win or lose $100 a day. We is a real operator.
Don't act any differently than you would expect guests to behave in your own hometown back in the States.
How much? About here. About here. How much? Okay. You give me number one job, huh? Hey, you're a Saigon cowboy. You Saigon VC?
It's not a question of us being subservient to the Americans. It's just a matter of these big things being in the landscape, and you go up to them and you ask for money, or you steal money, or you cheat them out of money. That's just one of the resources of your country. There's all these Americans.
You're a gangster. You're a Saigon gangster. What are you gonna do? Open up a bar tomorrow?
Other people have oil, copper. We have Americans. There are all these Americans around, and we go and tap.
You gave 50, you give me 50. That's shit to me. How much you gave it? You gave him 50.
40p.
Shit. I gave it you, and tomorrow you don't come.
I give you 40p.
How old are you now?
I'm 17 now.
At 17 you can go work soldier, right?
How much can make money 1 month?
You can be soldier, you know? Go to the war, be lamlin. You can go work soldier.
No can do. I'm small guy, 17 small guy. Maybe I know small I can do.
From time to time, we leaves the bar to attend to black market transactions and to see how the kids are getting on across the street.
Maybe some GI, some GI he don't know, he change 1,000. I go change 1,000 for 400, I make 400. Sometimes
$10 for 1,000 piastres.
Yes, sometimes.
You give him 1,000p for $1.
Yeah.
So sometimes the police arrest you, take you to go jail, huh?
Yeah, sometimes no police no like Susan boy, take go jail. Some Susan boy go jail, and me go jail with trouble with some girl,
Why do the police arrest Shushan boy? Why the police don't like Shushan boy?
Cao Vietnamese no like Susan boy, think with Susan boy number 10, Maybe take Betsan go Susan, she steal some GI money too.
CQ, what's CQ?
She steal take money,
Steal money, Your mother and father like you go work Shushan?
My mother, my father don't like me.
They don't like you?
Yeah, my mother like me,
Yeah.
My father, he don't like.
Why?
I don't like my father, I go away.
Where do you live now?
I live house, Dick and John.
What house? What is the house of Dick? Tell me about the house of Dick.
Đàn Phong Ngũ Lao.
Evening in Saigon, people take to the roofs to catch the cooler air, and the kids drift back to Shushan House with the day's pickings that Dick will bank for them.
Yeah, why'd you take money?
Dick usually asks no questions about sources. His one rule, no money deals between people in the house.
I have to play God, no. I had, hey John, baby, I do you keep me money.
We has taken money from us for the interview on the street.
Why do you do that same all American?
Dick asks him why he accepted money from me, since I'm living in the house.
No, but why?
Yes, he put money in table and at me, him give me money.
Why don't you tell him? Don't do that. Too many
I have to play card, he go away.
Tonight you're asking for more money?
No. I don't get sleep here.
Huh?
But it wasn't just the money at issue. It was my stolen camera, too, that had raised tensions. We had said that he would get the camera back, but he failed.
What you got from him earlier, maybe in your interviews on the street, was exactly what he knows is marketable and what people want from him, and exactly the thing he doesn't want to give, but what he gives time and time again, which is this very sellable pidgin English. You see, there's a contradiction in them, and that's why you see feelings. There's a contradiction between being a part of this and their people, their adults, their older people, their families, their parents, the Vietnamese girls. All these people are being corrupted and prostituted right in front of him. He feels very strongly that the whole society is completely permeated by the money and with the money.
I can't do work for money. Maybe something I go buy the wrong, you know, because I be about even there, even now, you know. Maybe some guy got wrong, you know. He had fun, you know. He come, I can take him money. Maybe some guy give me money, go to BS, you know, give me embassy, go to I can go away, I don't come back, I can have work for money. Why you don't do that?
I think they feel that they just don't quite size up to what the Americans are. There's this great land 1,000 miles away with people with lots of money and great cars and big women and...
That's, you know, where you want...
I'm not mad.
You met, you want to, you know, where you want me met you, make trouble. That's all you say.
I'm not mad. And Vietnam's just in trouble, and there's a war here, and the place to be is America and to be an American.
No, sir, I give to you. Maybe you buy something for me tomorrow.
I don't want money.
Maybe you don't have money, you want me tomorrow, we'll trouble, man.
You can keep.
You can keep too, no sweat.
No,
So again, you can keep no sweat, take money.
His idea for the island was to build a, not just a haven, but a place for negotiations. That's pretty wild for a monk from Quinoa. He had a vision that he was the man who was going to bring peace to Vietnam. There are about maybe 25% of the young men, not just the people, but just of the young men, have been there since last THET, because their homes were destroyed, or they just don't want to be around where homes are being destroyed, or it's because of the pickup in pressure on the draft in South Vietnam now. As they stopped them in the streets, they've gone with pagoda. They're all on the same trip, and it's obviously good for them. Their health is better. They aren't dying in the war like the rest of their brothers.
You were in the Vietnamese army, 12 days. Why did you leave?
Why I leave?
Why you go away, army?
Yeah, why I leave the army?
Yeah.
Because, you know, I got on my body, it get killed, skin.
He saw 3 of his buddies killed, and he decided that that was enough. He hung around the brothels in the northern part of the country for a while, much like we of Shushan House. And then he came, not to the Monks Island, but to another island, a disused cemetery here in Saigon.
Bullshit, you told doctor you were very sick. Come.
Yeah.
It's not really an island, but there's no other way to describe this closed-off, isolated place where 5,000 refugees live right in the center of Saigon under all those roofs. And its security and secrecy lies in the fact that once you go behind that church, you as a stranger are instantly lost. Steve Earhart also with dispatch, planned some articles on the cemetery people. His guide is Trong, cameraman, linguist, who knows the area well.
Sáng nay vì các con đau nên anh phải chạy về để mà thăm nom trong cái gia đình của mình, xem rằng nó có được bình yên không hay là nó xảy ra cái chuyện gì khác. Mình thử anh đi lại được không nhỉ? Bố.
GIs came here once looking for girls and marijuana, but now the GIs are rarely seen, and all that reminds you of them are babies that they've left behind. Trong says that the cemetery people feel that we're spies because Steve speaks Vietnamese. This old man wants to follow us. Trong says no. No one may overhear our conversations. Trong has a great sense of secrecy. A Vietnamese without secrets is nobody at all. So it's hard to know what to think when he says that people feel we belong to the CIA.
Cảm ơn. Chụp hoài ở xóm này hả? Không chụp nhà tôi hả? Không quay với nhà tôi về.
After 2 days in the cemetery, we found that it was almost impossible to speak of the war or politics. It's just too dangerous to have opinions on these things. So we'd end up talking about candy selling.
This young man has just explained to me that he would like to be a spy when he grows up. He likes cowboys, he likes spies. He likes spies most of all. This family is making a kind of candy. This is made from a kind of fruit and sugar. 4 parts sugar to 1 part fruit. About 250 pounds of candy every day. The old lady, the mother, and this boy here go and sell the candy at the market every morning from 6 o'clock until 10 o'clock.
We moved from family to family, Steve putting his questions in Vietnamese. Most people were very poor, most adults had TB, most feared the coming rains more than the war. But the things I remember most are not the grim facts, but the signs of affection, the touching, and the sense of humor. This family, for instance, 14 children, 2 adults living on $2 a day, which the mother earns selling fish in the cemetery market.
Sáng giờ bán sao? Bán sáng giờ được bao nhiêu rồi? Chị mua bao nhiêu tiền cá rồi giờ bán?
By the end of the 4th day, we knew that our research was not going past the superficial. To these people, we were just Americans. And in their experience, Americans either kill or give. Every contact seems to degenerate to these simple alternatives.
You think it's a mistake for an American ever to buy something for Vietnamese children?
They appreciate about and they have, but there are different way of giving. Instead of giving nicely or encouraging for the good things, the way how you are doing that is encouraging them for the bad way.
Yeah. So you think I was the ugly American this afternoon, huh?
That is because I don't blame you.
I think Dick too began by thinking that he could be different, that he could break out of the killing-giving cycle.
More recently, I came to the recognition that I had only reached a certain level, and underneath that there was tremendous resentment for me as an American, as a tremendous hostility that even they themselves didn't realize how deep it was. That in one sense, I was being completely put on. They had accepted a certain way of dealing with me. They knew, before I knew, that they would never get below a certain level with me, that there's certain things I would never understand. So, and this is in a very close relationship, living here, sleeping together, having arguments, or do you sense that this is all, your talk with them, your discussion with them is all superficial?
Well, there's no doubt that I'm not really getting through in a deep human way. I mean, I'm not getting to the very core of their lives.
Have you ever given them money?
Oh, occasionally. I buy a kid a popsicle or something.
Oh.
Which
Why?
is... because they asked me to.
Lady. Cảm ơn.
Ăn đi.
Cảm ơn.
Ăn đi.
Cảm ơn.
Ăn đi. Oh my God, what's happening? Rejected. What am I going to do with all this ice cream?
Pick it up.
Let's see. Let's see. Would you like an ice cream?
Why do you think I wouldn't? You can't find a way to break the image, right?
For example, this woman who sells coffee and beer insisted that I should pay 50 piastres for a bottle of beer, which I know is too much. And she knew I knew it was too much. Yeah, I was mad because, she was saying, you're an American. I can cheat you. This is the way I deal with you. And of course I was offended because I didn't want to be just another American that was being taken by the Vietnamese. But looking at it from their point of view, I think they should get all the money they can from Americans, whatever means.
Channel 11 News and Sports is compiled from commercial and military news agencies.
We have made some progress. We think we're going to make some more. As far as American public opinion is concerned, I think that the American people will support a president if they are told by the president why we are there. And
ông làm chết xong anh học trình
không gì
thiệt không?
Thiệt dạ xin lỗi không nhiều lưu lạc 40 năm.
It will not be easy. The American people, I can say from having campaigned the country, are terribly frustrated about this war. I think...
Saigon, you're viewing Channel 11, the American Forces Vietnam Network. AFVN presents Bobby and the Weather. Now with reports on weather conditions stateside, Vietnam and R&R, here's that bubbling bundle of barometric brilliance, Bobby.
Now first in Big D, you long, tall Texans out there, had a cool fair day of 68, moving down through the Swanee River to the Miami Beach area. Was a cool fair day of 77. Vietnam map. First up in the ancient capital of Wayne was a warm fair day of 87. In and around the Da Nang area was reported to be a warm, clear day of 82. That's the way the weather has been in our part of the world this evening. This is Bobby saying good night from American Forces Vietnam Network. And this evening I'd like to send a special salute to the fellas out there of the 92nd Assault Helicopter Company. And thank you fellas for watching. Until Monday, have a pleasant evening, weather-wise, and y'all know, of course, otherwise.
weather. A look at tomorrow's conditions today with Channel 11's weather girl, Bobby.
Peace will come to Vietnam for a short time in the year of the cock. This is the year of the cock. That's what the fortune teller says this Sunday morning in the cemetery.
Nó có dài hết cái năm này. Sống thì lâu, phước thì có, mà tài thì không. Nghe chưa? Dạ nghe. Sống thì lâu, phước thì nhiều, mà tài thì không. Nhiều tử đa tôn.
Steve had decided to try the cemetery again. So this Sunday found us there listening to the destiny of a sicklo driver who lives behind the church. The fortune teller says that business will be good for him this year, but he has to look after his legs.
Cả tháng sau là ông con trận bệnh không có gì nghe, có cái chân.
He's 67 years old. He fought with the French in Europe in the First World War, and he's been driving sicklos in these streets for 40 years. But his day-to-day fortunes depend on catching a GI. For if he gets an American, he'll make as much in 1 hour as he makes in a whole day.
GI comes up to Sequel driver, says, "You got number one girl?" Sequel driver says, "You go boom boom, I get you number one girl. Very pretty, very young. Maybe you'll even say you want cherry girl." GI expresses incredulity. Sequel driver says, "We go."
And if he gets an American, he may bring him back to the cemetery, where the girls sit smoking their Salems and waiting. She was born in the year of the cock, and the fortune teller tells her that according to her destiny, she'll marry a foreigner.
Mấy tuổi?
Dạ tôi dậu. Dậu 25.
Dậu 25, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hồi nhỏ tới lớn.
That's all. Money, please, says the fortune teller. May I be prosperous this year? The girl asks him. You will be prosperous, but you must not go out on the streets at night. Because if you do, especially in February, you will be shot. This is the mama-san of the house where the 7 bar girls live.
Okay, Mommy-san.
She used to own a bar, but her husband drank all the profits, and so now she manages this house, and seems to do so very well because the girls all call her Mama San, and there's a nice feeling in the house.
Thank you, Mommy San number one. Okay.
Who's that? Cô ấy là ai?
Cháu.
Cháu.
Cháu kêu bằng gì?
Your niece, no? Quê. Ở Saigon thì là gì?
Là nước trà đó.
Nước trà cho 200 đồng. Không biết nước trà. Trời ơi.
One girl said that she was from a village just outside Saigon, and that her mother and her sister didn't know that she was working as a prostitute. She was very frightened that they were going to find out. She saw no hope for the future, and she felt she was going to die in a few years. Most of the bar girls do not wear the white ao dai or their hair in the long traditional style. They say that these things are for pure, innocent Vietnamese girls and that they don't consider themselves Vietnamese anymore. They belong to the foreigners now.
You know, I'm happy, and I have 2 baby sons, you know.
You have 2 babies?
2 baby, 1 boy and 1 girl.
Yeah.
1 boy, 2, 4 here, you know.
Yeah.
1 girl, 2 here. But now he finished me, you know. And they have 2 money.
Your husband is finished with you?
Huh?
Your husband is finished with you?
Yes. And now he keeps on married. I have to go work, have money, okay. I don't like keep married no more.
You work at a bar, huh?
Yes.
What bar you work at?
Happy well.
When they're not working, the bar girls play on the back steps of the church. An old man who was watching told us that Vietnam had always been a prostitute. Little nation between big nations. It was just a matter of choosing whose mistress to be, who was the most powerful. There was another bar girl I wanted to film, almost a friend. She played with another army, this one, with the French in Hanoi in '54. But last night, in her little cupboard, with her opium pipe, she died. And now all that we have left are some images that Trong took of her last year. The next morning we arrived about 9, and we found one of the cyclo drivers collecting money for the woman's coffin. Everybody was giving 50, 100 piastres, which is a lot of money for these people. $50p for the coffin came from the Fish family via their son, the ice cream seller. They were having a sad, happy day this day because for 1 hour, another son came back from the war. He'd been in the army before, but deserted, been informed on by a neighbor, arrested, and there was an officer waiting just outside the gate to see that he didn't escape again.
Morale is high and defections almost nil. All recruits are tattooed with the words Satcon, which means kill communists, a slogan not designed to endear them to the enemy should they be captured.
The coffin was bought just outside the church gate. You never have to go very far in Vietnam to find a coffin shop.
Workmen in the coffin shop were putting something like sawdust inside the coffin, and they said it was to absorb the blood.
The house of the 7 bar girls was well represented. Like most of the other people, they didn't seem to know her very well. But perhaps because in a certain sense she was one of them, they seemed to be more moved by her death.
And she volunteered the information that she didn't usually smoke. She only smoked, she was sad.
Tại vì buồn quá, thấy người ta vui mình buồn quá.
And I said, why are you sad?
Không biết tại sao nữa.
And she said, I don't know. I said, are you sad about the woman who died?
Không phải bà đó, không có gì tôi đó.
And she said, no, I'm only sad for myself.
Buồn là tôi thôi.
Có buồn đó.
Cô có sợ chết không?
Không, không sợ chết.
Sợ hôn ma không?
Hả?
Có sợ hôn ma không?
Không. Không sợ hồn ma.
Không sợ ma.
Không.
Hồn ma không giờ sợ.
Không có sợ ma không?
Không. Chết. Thôi đứng nghe quay phim ơi, già này cáo.
Thôi đi đâu.
Apparently, she had died last night, and the people had asked the police to take the body away, but they refused to do so because she had no identification papers. So she was still lying in the little cupboard that she lived in, and already people were beginning to negotiate for that little bit of space.
The only reason you have to worry about someone who's dead is that the manner in which he departed from this world may have been upsetting somehow, may have rubbed the wrong edges of the nerves of the universe, and you have to get the spirit back together again, back at rest with itself. Because you're all part of the same family there in the graveyard, and everything is in harmony.
The man in the pith helmet is the one that Trong would not let follow us on our first day in the cemetery. He and old Sicklo, hidden beneath the little peaked cap, were the only ones who were not frightened of the woman's TB.
Không sửa tay cho ta chân cho lượng lợi chứ. Đâu mày biết mà mày đứng ở đây mày gây. Sao làm cái kia đeo mặt có mũi không? Không phải. Không phải. Phải không? Không phải đâu.
Trong was there last night when she died, and he tells us that he found people going through her possessions.
And people is looking at her luggage bag to check the things. So I asked them what for. They told me that for arranging the things so when she dies, so they can bury it together with her in the coffin.
She was very small and very fine bones. You know, she was a very beautiful, delicate little thing, and she used to dance in the cabarets in Hanoi when the French were there. And she was the mistress of a prince. And after a while she was hooked on the black phantom opium. I was thinking of her living there in a tomb, and she was once a dancer.
You didn't have any relatives at all?
Now she has none, except from that she has two young daughters.
Yeah, she was holding her little sister some of the time. She looked very sad, very lonely. A look of sudden realization at the age of 13 that, you know, for what little it was worth, that was your mother.
The older daughter later disappeared. Some said that she had been taken to the other side, to the NLF. Ironically, Catholicism is more alive on this island than it is in the cemetery, because the monk has incorporated into his Buddhism, his Taoism, lots of Catholic symbols and rituals.
And you pray, and so it took nearly 10 times a day by the number. The people go and pray, and it gives them time to think or not think, depending on your point of view. And there's some place to be, you know, it's like meal times, and it gives their day a certain order to it. And since they pray through the night too, the distinction between day and night isn't quite the same, with the bells gonging away, you know. And it puts them on a trip, you know, literally. They have the gongs going, they have the prayer, which by this time is like a repeated Indian mantra. It has no intellectual sense to it. It's just a bunch of words going through your head, a freeing mechanism for your mind. A vegetarian diet, after about 4 days, your body feels light and your mind feels very light. And, you know, like a balloon, as one says, you could float away. And so these people eat nothing but vegetable. This is a classical Buddhist circle. Man lives off the earth. When he dies, his body decays, whatnot, but it goes into the earth. And out of the earth comes vegetables. The Buddha taught that if you eat the vegetables, you are completing the cycle without any pain or suffering. But if you eat meat, the suffering and the pain of the animal that you killed goes into your body. So if you're killing cows, you are killing an element of yourself, and that will correspond later in your actions, and you might, kill somebody else. It's the spilling of blood.
The war is all around the island. Patrol boats circle constantly. Helicopters spray the jungle on both sides of the river. And at night, rockets pass directly overhead. But on the island, the only war is symbolic war. The war the Daozua fights with apples and palm leaf grenades.
Bữa nay con hay hát cái màn Bắc tiếng Nam tiếng. Đạo đức tinh thần đem lại hòa bình nước này Việt Nam và sau này cả thế giới.
I, second uncle, playing the theatre of war, of northward and southward moving, morality will bring peace to Vietnam and to the world. I, second uncle, respectfully ask permission to go to Hanoi, bringing good solution for Vietnam. Peace will surely come.
He believes that if you manipulate a symbol for a thing, it's not different from voodoo or alchemy or any of the Western psychic sciences. If you manipulate a symbol for a thing properly, you manipulate the thing itself. These symbols, in other words, you can miniaturize gross cosmos just by having the proper geometrical formulas. So he manipulates the symbols.
So he manipulates the symbols of his map. Each day he walks between Saigon and Hanoi. He was educated in France as a chemical engineer. Came back from France in 1945, well equipped with his degrees and his family's wealth. And then he went through a classical Buddhist change, seeing the misery around him and feeling a compulsion to do something about it. The government calls him a fool and confines him to this peaceful island.
He's a fool, perhaps, but who drops the napalm in Vietnam? Other crazy men. And what are the results of these two insanities? Carnage and a lovely society. So, you almost have to stop just what you feel when you go to the island. Mosquitoes may bother you and the gongs may keep you up, but you're looking at Vietnamese that you won't see anywhere, from the Chinese border down to the ocean.
Mình là Lê Thanh Đức Hưng, biệt danh là Ba Michael. Cả nhà nhớ bấm subscribe ủng hộ kênh mình nha. Bye bye, tạm biệt.